Hello everyone, welcome to Yasumi, your Globe Tech YouTube channel where I'm going to talk with global leads. And today is for business analysis with Tim Coventry, a senior leader in business analysis for over 30 plus years, 3 decades almost, and who was the past president of the well-established Australian chapter. Let's see how insightful his career was, how he began his career, and what thoughts he will be bringing us to the today's conversation.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah. So I know that I have seen that you have been in the industry for about 20 plus years in the field of business analysis. So to start off with, can you give a brief introduction about your background and about your specifications and all?
Yeah, sure. So look, I've been a business analyst around about nearly 30 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing business analysis before I even knew that it was the name and the professional name was being a business analyst. So back 30 years ago, there wasn't a profession around business analysis. CBAP hadn't been formed, and I sort of moved into business analysis quite naturally. So I started teaching as a software instructor, and part of teaching as a software instructor, I started consulting in software, and my strength was really about eliciting what people really needed in their software, and then being able to work with developers to make sure that software really reflected what the needs of the individual users and also the business really required. That was my move, and it was something that was quite a natural progression for me, and it's something that really was a great privilege to do, because I had a really great experience with working around the world in different countries, meeting lots of different people and understanding lots of different cultures, while also progressing my skills as a business analyst.
Thank you, Tim. So when you take us to the beginning of your career, what first drove you to this field? Like, was there a defining moment or a mentor that who helped you to set the path, or like that?
Yeah, look, back 30 years ago, there really wasn't too many mentors around, and so I didn't have that luck of having a mentor as such in the field of business analysis. I guess speaking to lots of different friends, that they really helped me along with some of that career progression. And I think there was sort of like a real interest for me to enter into business analysis. It sort of really appealed to me, because it was a lot of, I guess, the areas that I really gravitated to, which was some analytical thinking, some problem solving, but also, talking to people and communicating to them and trying to elicitate what really their requirements. So it was sort of a match made in heaven around really what I wanted to try to do in my career. And even though I fell into it, I sort of kept falling into it along the way, and still remain really interested and really passionate about this profession.
And so IIBA is the world's largest professional organization for business analysts, and you were the past president for this Australia as well. So, what key shifts have you observed in the role of business analysis over these past 3 decades?
Yeah, so look, I think it's the first thing is that it has been formalised. So it's now been a profession. And IIBA in 2003 really started that as a profession with a set of skills, a set of tasks, a set of activities that we do, and a set of underlying competencies that business analysts should be equipped with. So it's sort of, I think that the profession is actually quite old. I think business analysis has been around way before project management. It's been business analysis has been something as soon as we had bartering as a means of exchanging products and services. I think business analysis really started back then. But it's only been since 2003 that it's really been formalised as a profession. What's changed over that 20, 30 years? Really, I think the thing that's really started to change now is that I see there's a movement from being just a note taker or a documenter of requirements. I think now BAs have to have a level of understanding about strategy, about value for the business, and making sure that all the work that we're doing is actually traced back to that strategy. No longer can BAs simply be just pumping out BRDs and FRDs, and there's just long-winded bits of text all over the place, and maybe it repeats itself several times and it's not really succinct and well traced. I think now we've got to come up with models that really reflect the dynamic nature of business. Business is dynamic and it changes all the time, and business analysis is that ability to be able to pivot and change the organisation. So I think, we've moved away from being just grinders or document grinders. We've changed from being that pumping out large reams of paper to now being change champions. So that's really, what I mean by that is, I think organisations now have to change, and they have to change at pace. So it's constant, and you have to have a pace of this change that's coming. Too fast, it's not very good because people can't soak up the change. So you have to have this pace of change. And I think BAs are really, they're that pivotal role that are actually, those change champions. And I see that, the skill sets around a business analysts need to be a lot more broader now, because if we're that catalyst that traces all that change together, then we also need those competencies that go along with that as well. So I think it's changed. I think it's changed in the way we do things, and I think the future is really going to look at further change as well.
So yeah, many BAs feel also overwhelmed by the pace of change, and beyond the technical skills, what kind of mindsets or adaptability strategies would you recommend to stay relevant, to overcome these challenges the BAs would face?
Well, I think you've touched on a really good point there. You've got mindset. I think mindset's a really, really, really important thing. Is that I think you can have a lot of frameworks and methodologies and all of these things, but if you haven't got a mindset that actually allows you to take parts of methodologies or combine them or be collaborative with stakeholders, I think you're not going to really be in the right mindset to enable change to happen and the right change to happen. You're going to be too stagnant and non-collaborational. That I think that then you do become a resistor of change, not a complementer of change. So I think that BAs really need that really good mindset. It's about getting stuff done, right? It's not about a methodology. It's got to be about getting stuff done. And I think that's really important. It's got to be that as BAs, we actually are about delivering effective change in businesses. I find it staggering that in the IT sector that we can have so much failure of actually delivering change, that there's such a division between strategy and actually what's being delivered. So not always the change is really effective change that happens in organisations.
So during your time at IIBA, I know you have influenced the global community in every aspect to uplift the BAs who are coming to the industry and for the existing BAs to ladder up in their careers. So what's one change you advocated for that you believe has redefined how the profession operates?
Yeah, look, I think one of the things that I think I'm really proud of within the industry within Australia is that we really have a strong chapter, a strong IIBA chapter, and I think that's happened over a long period of time. It's not something that's just happened overnight. It's been 15 years of consistency and some really great people coming along to really shift the industry and try to make it a better place here in Australia. And I think that there's been a couple of things that have really helped. I think having strong leadership within the chapter itself, and not just for one term, but multiple terms of board members. So this ability to be able to hand over from one board to another board to another board to provide some level of consistency across the chapter is probably what I'm most proud of. The chapter being financially stable is a real plus. And then to also have a leadership which then passes the baton on to the next board has been really something that's helped the industry here in Australia. And I think that it's something that I know in my early career there was no chapter, there was no IIBA. But to have that now, I think we're in a much better situation now than we've ever been.
Yeah, so it's like very insightful because in Sri Lanka also, this is my 7 years in the industry, but we only initiated our IIBA chapter last year, and we also got a set of individuals who are experts in the field, so that we could build up a strong foundation. And we held our first BA conference and continuing sessions to the community, to the universities as well. So we got the inspirations from the chapters like you actually, how they are doing the events, social media pages we were following and all. And
I think that's a really good thing. I think that's a great thing to enable because formulating a chapter, especially for a profession, is really not easy. You've got people who are volunteers, people who have got full-time jobs, people that have got families, people that do lots of different things in their life. They're being pulled different ways, and what's really important is, from a chapter point of view, is how do you short circuit some of those sorts of things? How do you get a really good foundation to really start with? And what I would say is kudos to you. You've joined IBA and you're part of that in Sri Lanka. And what it is having a chapter is a little bit like a mini startup. So people can actually really learn terrific competencies if they volunteer for IBA, because it's not only just part of that is giving to the community, but it's also, if for an individual, you learn so many things when you're part of that starting up and then taking it from a startup to being a mature organisation. It's pretty good. You can actually gain a hell of a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, as you told, like when I started my career also, like I had to do a lot of self-learning, and like most of the places I went, I didn't have the BA professional seniors to teach or to get that knowledge, transferring the knowledge. So knowledge transfers, how I got is like from the self-learning tools, everything like that. So having this kind of a strong BA community connected for the chapter, what I believe is, like, from that, our juniors won't have that kind of, they won't have to go like that kind of struggling phases when they're starting the career. Since we have the top professionals in the industry here collectively doing an effort to uplift BAs in Sri Lanka.
And look, it's a really good point. I think that's one of the challenges that we've got as a profession.
Yeah.
Right. One of the challenges that we have as a profession is that, and we're going to have this is going to be absolutely amplified with AI. So as a profession, we really need to solve this problem. And the problem exists because the market all over the world wants senior business analysts. So I see it all the time that everybody wants a senior business analyst, and that's the way that job adverts are advertised, whether they're for permanent people or whether they're for contingent labour or for us in services. It's very much around, I need a senior, I need a senior, I need a senior. Well, that's okay for a point in time. What happens is that there's no growth. There's no new blood coming into the profession. And if, we see this demand for business analysis, which has happened, incredibly over my career, and it's likely to continue into the future. So how do we get that fostering of new talent coming in to the profession? I think we have to move to more outcome-based. We have to have outcome-based business analysis rather than give me a person, give me a senior business analyst. You have to know what are we actually delivering as part of our analysis. And if we can get that outcome-based, then we're more likely to be able to mentor and train and bring along less experienced business analyst, rather than it's just one size fits all and it's a senior business analyst. Now what happens is more experienced business analysts can help mentor more less experienced business analysts, and we can bring them in to teach them the right things in the right way. And that's going to improve business analysis. It's going to improve how people see business analysis in the marketplace as well. because a lot of people don't understand what really exceptional business analysis is all about. They just see business analysis and they don't know the difference between somebody who's really competent and somebody who's not so.
Yeah. So, since you have guided teams with with the complex business challenges and all over the past years, how do you balance the analytical side of the BA work with the human side? I mean, with the stakeholder management, fostering innovation.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's hard. It's chicken and egg, isn't it? It's, do you need technical skills or do you need some more softer skills? I think you need both. I think the technical skills are pretty easy to teach. We can teach those pretty quickly. I think some of the more softer skills or the people skills, they're really challenging. They're harder to teach. Some people learn them easier than others. So I think it comes with individuals. Some people are more curious, a lot more, open, receptive, collaborative, and that therefore they can learn those things really, really easily. So I think what's really important is if as an individual you've got to really be quite self-reflective and work out what's your strengths, where are your weaknesses, and make sure that you're balancing some of those strengths and weaknesses to really help with some of that. One of the things that I think we do really well is that we often, with stakeholder management and stakeholder elicitation, we never really go into a workshop without really understanding what the customer journey is that we're going to be talking about. We do all that prep beforehand. It's so important because if you walk into a workshop and you just say to a stakeholder, well, what do you want? They're not really going to have the framework or the structure to get the elicitation that you need to do. So I think one of the key things for BAs is really understand what's the subject that you're talking about, what's the problem or the opportunity you're trying to solve, and then make sure that you actually know where you're heading before you actually start talking to any stakeholders. And nowadays, it's really easy to find that information out. It's so easy with AI just to simply really get a full understanding of the business problem or the opportunity that you're really looking at. It's so critical for business analysis is you've got to know the why. If you don't know the why, then you're being that note taker, you're being that documenter, you're being that person who, is not really providing the value to the business. And that's not where business analysis is really in that realms of being exceptional.
So what's the most critical skill for a BA transitioning into a leadership role like yours, if I ask this straightforward?
Yeah, look, I think the real key is think like an entrepreneur. You've got to think about, if this was my money, what would I be doing? What outcomes would I be looking for if I was investing my money into this problem or opportunity? Right? If you think like that, I think then you start to also think what the organisation should be thinking. Now, for BAs, there's a very fine line between, working out what the organisation should be doing and then telling them what they should be doing. That's not our role. Our role is not to tell them what they should be doing. We can guide them, we can move them along, but if we're helping them on that journey, then that's really the key outcome that business analysts should be really helping organisations with. So I think it's, I'm not too sure I've answered your question exactly there, but it's really about be an entrepreneur, think like an organisation, think at that higher strategic value level. And if you can do that, then we're able to trace the requirements down into something that can be delivered.
And how do you see these emerging technologies like AI, automation, data analytics reshaping the future of business analysis?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Well, myself and Angela Wick, we wrote a book about AI. So we've put some pen to paper and we've really put some thoughts down around AI. We actually wrote it about a year ago. And the amazing thing is a lot of what we have written in our book, Future Proof, Amplifying Agility with AI and Insightful Business Analysis. What we wrote back a year ago was just over a year now. A lot of that sort of started to happen. And it's happened probably a lot quicker than we actually thought that it would happen. It's come along a long way. And I start to see now some real changes with AI. I think what's going to happen is that AI is going to be very centered around products. I think we're seeing that Salesforce now has some agentic AI within it. We're seeing players like ServiceNow having agentic AI in it. We'll start to see that across multiple different applications. So it'll be buried within applications. And so these will remain as stovepipes. But then I think what's going to happen is that there is going to be some AI that's going to be not so custom to specific vendors, but it's going to sit across applications as well. So our work as business analysts is really going to change. I see that, and we wrote about this in our book, that it's going to change from detailed user stories, from functional requirements and non-functional requirements. It's going to change from that level, and it's going to come up the chain. So it's going to be more around stakeholder requirements and business requirements and strategy, less about the detail. The detail in user stories, AI eventually is going to, and I don't think it's going to happen right now, but it's going to eventually happen. Then AI is simply going to pick up what we elicitate from a business perspective. And the smarts are already happening. Code is already being written. A lot of codes, third of code is being written by AI now. So I think that's already shifting. It will take some time. So there's no need, as a BA, there's no need to panic. I think there's still time, but our focus should be really around honing some of those skills around strategy and around customer journeys and also value streams, getting us really good at that analysis first. That should be where people are heading towards, I think. But I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball.
Mm. Okay, so business analysis is sometimes misunderstood. Uh, some people, like when it comes to the IT industries as well as in non-IT industries. So, what's the stereotype about BS you'd love to correct?
It's a good question. Um, yeah, look, I think, um, I think business analysis really has real breadth. I think the really great thing about business analysis is that it has real great breadth. The really bad thing about business analysis is it has really great breadth. So I think, you know, it's a plus, but it's also a negative. And I think what happens is that because it's so broad, I think business analysis gets itself put into a stereotype which is just down at the delivery phase, that it's just around creating FRDs and BRDs. And I think we get locked into that area. And I think a lot of BAs, their competency is locked into that area as well. Business analysis, I think, is really the core is about solving problems and taking advantage of opportunities. So the work that we're doing is really about moving any organisation from the current state to moving it to the future state. And essentially, the difference between the current state and the future state is the gap. And the gap should be whatever projects we're actually working on. That it's the gap is the portfolio of work that's helping the business move from the current state to the future state. Now, I think all BAs know that. When I talk to BAs all around the world, they know that. But there's a disconnect still between the strategy of an organisation and making sure that the strategy is measurable, and then being able to connect all that's being worked on back to that strategy. So what do you see? Do you see that in Sri Lanka?
Yeah.
I think it actually happens all around the world. I think it's a phenomena that I see, and I don't see anybody saying, "Oh yeah, we're doing that intentionally." We don't want to deliver our strategy through our projects, and we're misaligned here. But hey, we did that on purpose. I think it's just a phenomena that happens.
Yeah, sometimes people think like, okay, we are just doing the documentation.
Yeah, but why? What's the strategy that we're actually trying to deliver? And that should be the real essence of BAs. And what I would say to any aspiring BA is get to be solving that, to ask, why are we doing it? How is it fitting into the strategy? And what does my document, what is that delivering? Who am I doing this document for? You know, because if they're not going to read it, well, why are we doing this document? You know, go and ask that person, what do they need? And that to me is the really great thing about business analysis, is that we are the ones that trace between the strategy and between the delivery.
Yeah. So for someone starting the career in business analysis or who are in the initial phase, what's your number one piece of advice?
Yeah, well, look, the first thing that I would do is join a professional group. Join an IIBA chapter. That's a really great thing to really start with. I think make sure that the first job that you're taking, you might have to just take because it's your first job, but be working towards working in an organisation that really gets it, that gets strategy right the way through to delivery, and that way your career is just going to be really, really set on fire, and also you're gonna have fun along the way. You know, nobody likes working in an organisation where they know that their document isn't going to get read. They know that their process models are just going to be shelved, and nobody's going to be interested in that. People want to be inspired with the work that they do. They want to do their best work, and I think that's one of the things is make sure you keep on searching for an organisation that does it really well, because you're going to learn the right way. You're not going to be disenfranchised to be, you know, not really working the right way. And then I think, you know, use frameworks too. So, you know, frameworks like business architecture. You know, BAs do business architecture. Whether they know that they're doing it or not, they're doing it. The minute that we put down in a swim lane who's doing the process, we're actually doing business architecture. The minute that we write down a noun, we're doing business architecture, because that's data. So the first thing is go and learn it, go and understand it, right? If you've got someone in your organisations who's a business architect, go and talk to them, right? But also then translate how BAs are doing business architecture, because every business analyst is doing business architecture. It's just whether they consciously think about how they're doing business architecture. And then the next big thing is business process decomposition, right? One of the biggest things that I see is people don't know how to do decompositions of business processes. We want to go from really high level, from level 0 right the way down to level 4. So you must be able to do some decomposition, and you've got to understand how to break that down into smaller chunks. Don't just start from process modeling because you've been told that that's what you need to do. Start at the higher level, break it down, and make sure that, you know, whatever the inputs and the outputs are, that you've got some form of understanding about the breadth of that as well. Because you may find that the process that you've been given isn't really the problem or the opportunity that you're trying to solve. It may be the preceding process, or it may be in a totally different area of the business that's causing the issue that you're trying to work and correct. So, you know, that's what I'd say is get those skills. Make sure that you are concentrating on some of those softer skills. So, you know, active listening, communication, you know, two-way communication. So validation of what you're saying, play that back, get a stakeholder to play that back as well. Be curious rather than compliant. Okay, so curious rather than compliant. I think that's really important. Ted Lasso said, be curious rather than judgmental. All right. For a BA, I think it's be curious, but don't just be compliant. Don't just take what people say. I know Damien Wilson, he talks about a business analyst being a detective. He thinks that a business analyst is a detective, and I think he's really onto something around that. You've got to uncover the truth, elicit the truth. And sometimes that means that not what the stakeholder's saying is always correct. You've got to do a 360 on it. You've got to get all the clues and get all the facts before you come to your synthesis of that bit of analysis. Often people just take an analogy and then take that as being fact, rather than going down to the root cause, thinking about it, and then building up your analysis approach from really the lowest common denominator. When you start to do that, now you're becoming a detective. Now you're really finding out what it's all about, and that's good fun. It's good fun, and if you do it in a really collaborative way, if you're curious, you're asking the right questions, you're working with your stakeholders to get the right outcome, then that's I think that's a real key skill of a business analyst.
Understood. And since you are in the IIBA, how important do you think this certifications like CBAP and versus the hands-on experience in this field?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's always a question that I always get, and often I get, do I need to be certified to get a job? All right. Well, the reality is probably in the marketplace, it's probably not true. You don't always. I don't see many organisations asking for certification. Do you need? Should you be? Does a exceptional business analyst need to be certified? Yes, they do. If you're an exceptional business analyst, then you'd be certified. You would know your craft inside and backwards, frontwards, inside out, right? You have to do it. And so, is it absolutely critical that you become certified? No. Should you be certified? Yeah. Get certified. I did my certification probably towards the end of my career because it wasn't available early on in my career. If it had been, I would have done it way back at the start of my career. I did it towards the end because I still believe that you really need to know your craft. And if you want to operate in that strategic area, and I think every BA should be aspiring to connect the strategy to delivery, then I think you need to be certified.
Yeah. Thank you, Tim, for the great advice. And since we are coming to the end of our discussion today as well,
Sure.
Yeah. So, any final thoughts you can give to the professionals in who will be listening to this conversation, and what, like, anyone on the fence about a career in business analysis, like, what's your why, or what makes this field uniquely rewarding for you, like with your personal thoughts and personal experiences? Can you give an advice to the community?
Yeah, look, I think the thing that I think is really great about the BA profession is that you are about helping people. So I think, ultimately our role is not to do something within the business. It's not to perform a task for a customer. It's not to be part of a business unit. What it is about helping the business do better business. And I think that's really, something that's really exciting about business analysis is that we are helping businesses, whether they're for-profit organisations, whether they're not-for-profit, or whether they're a government agency. We're actually helping them to do better business. We're about providing better products and services to their customers, to their citizens, or to their membership. And so, to me, that's a really great fun role. It allows us to be analytical and problem solving. We solve some really complex problems, but it's no use just solving those complex problems. What we've got to do is we've got to actually work with people to help change the organisation. And some of that's the toughest thing to do is how do we present information that they may not want to hear, that they may not be ready to hear, or might be conflicting with their business unit, and it may be that, you know, their business unit has to change the most. So it's a really hard situation. But I think if you've got those skills, then it becomes a really challenging and good environment, not a environment that is really hard. You know, it's not a environment that wears you down. So I think, you know, there's a few critical things, and I think, you know, one of the things that I think you've got to do as a business analyst is you've got to be not afraid to be fired, right? You've got to be willing to say things that maybe people don't want to hear, but you just got to find ways in which you say it to them that you're not going to get fired, right? But you initially, you know, you've got to take that next step, you know. Or I don't want to say that. Well, no, do say it, because you might just change the organisation for the better. And I think that's, you know, if people see that in an individual, then they'll be really inspired. They see that you're genuine and that you're trying to do the best for the organisation, not just the best for you as an individual, but the best for the organisation. And then I think the last thing is invest in your education. You know, education is really everything. So invest in your education. And that doesn't mean to say you've got to go and pay people to be educated. You know, there's lots of things like your YouTube channel is a great investment for people to invest in themselves. And then if you're lucky, find a coach and a mentor, right? Find somebody else who's willing to work with you to help develop your skills as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Tim, for the great advices and sharing your experiences today to share my with my audience. It was great.
You're most welcome.
Yeah,
Most welcome. It's been a privilege.
Okay, thank you. Like it's a privilege for me actually. So this will be like most visited by the Sri Lankan audience as well as outside as well. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you for your time and.
Not a problem.
Okay. Bye. See you.
Nice to meet you. Bye.
Yeah. Bye. Thank you very much for listening to today's conversation. If you feel this was insightful and this helps you to build your career in the field of business analysis, or this will help you to uplift your career in the business analysis field, to subscribe and stay tuned. So I'll be bringing up this kind of global leads in our to talk about different tech topics via my YouTube channel. Thank you very much.